4.6-ish billion pieces of content get created each and every single day, whether it's video, audio, images. Creating content is a necessity, but you got to create good content.
You've Googled his name without even knowing it. Neil Patel, top 10 marketer in the world. Obama's pick for the top entrepreneur under 30 is here on No Bollocks.
Each search on Amazon is worth more than a search on Google.
We're talking scams, scaling, and what really works in 2025.
You're definitely fighting in a losing battle if you only focus on Google.
I hear you say a lot about SEO being search everywhere optimization.
If you're not focusing on the other platforms, you're missing out on roughly 73% of the daily searches.
Where is brand sitting in the overall mix?
When I look at our own business, my personal brand does roughly-ish 10 million bucks a year in revenue.
Talking about AI.
You got to leverage a combination of what we call human and AI, HAI. We think that is the future.
How do you see podcasting fitting into the overall marketing mix?
There's roughly one podcast for every 1,000-something people. There's a lot of money to be made. It's a massive channel that people can't ignore.
As a businessman and as an American, weigh in on the Trump versus Elon situation for me.
He is messing around with the bear and he's poking the bear and the bear can bite back.
This one is pure strategy, pure money-making strategy. Hit play.
Guys, Matt Haycox here, and welcome to another episode of No Bollocks with me, Matt Haycox. I have got a guest with me today who I have actually been a super fan of in the B2B world for many years. I get to do my podcast man crush today with Neil Patel. And if you know anything about digital marketing, anything about SEO, and if you don't know anything about it, you will have undoubtedly heard of this guy and his businesses in that world. He's a prolific creator of content. He has some unbelievable clients, and I think he's a great guy to listen to, a great guy to learn from. So thanks a lot for being here, Neil, and looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, look, there's so many different directions we could take this conversation into start. But I think, look, as I said a minute ago, you're known for for SEO. But one thing I hear you say a lot about lately is SEO being search everywhere optimization, which I guess obviously is a play on words, but is also where the market is at or where the world is at right now. I mean, talk to us about that. And is SEO as an isolated thing dead? As in, if you're not SEOing in the search everywhere world, are you fighting a losing battle, or is there still something to be had for SEO itself?
So I don't look at it as dead, but you're definitely fighting in a losing battle if you only focus on Google. Google is growing in popularity, so there's still more traffic to be had from Google than ever before. Hence, I don't think it's dead. But an interesting stat for you, and this is why I think it's important to really go everywhere. Google is the most popular search engine, but there's over 51-ish billion searches a day. Google's around 13.6 billion a day. They control roughly 27% of the market share. So even though Google is growing in popularity, they're growing at a slower rate than the overall market. So when you put it in perspective, if you're not focusing on the other platforms, you're missing out on roughly 73% of the daily searches. Does it mean Google should be ignored? No. It is one of the most popular channels out there. It drives the most traffic. But you shouldn't ignore Instagram, roughly 6.5 billion searches a day. Snap even is at 4 billion a day. Amazon Amazon, just the website, the e-com site, is around 3.5 billion searches a day. And those are transactional searches. Or a lot of them are transactional searches. When you look at even like the Apple App Store, they're at 500 million searches a day. Even ChatGPT, you got 1 billion a day. So when you start adding up all the platforms, and there's so many more, YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, and the list goes on and on, there's just so much volume to be had that people really fully focus on Google, sometimes but they should be focusing on all these platforms because the volume really adds up.
Are they? I mean, I was going to say, are they not very different? I mean, obviously they're very different, but I guess what I mean is, I would assume as much as you need to focus on the different ones, intent's very different on them all,
Yes.
demographics very different on them all. So we were talking before we started recording. Look, my core business is wealth management. So avenues of generating leads for us are meta ads, are Google PPC, podcasts, etc. That all works well together. Would you therefore would you also say Snap or TikTok, would be good to my demographic? I mean, obviously, App Store and it's not Google, Amazon Shopping wouldn't be, but I guess where I'm getting at, everything's very much going to depend on the intent of the client and on what your actual product is.
Yeah, the intent is different. The demographics are different. Um, a search on Instagram isn't worth as much as a search on Google. And a search on Amazon, if you look at it percentage wise, the percentage, even though Amazon has less searches, each search on Amazon is worth more than a search on Google because people are buying a product for most cases, right? I know Google's at 13.7 billion, but if Amazon and Amazon's around 3.5 billion, but if Google only had 3.5 billion searches, percentage wise, the searches on Amazon are much more transactional and there's more money to be made, right? So not every platform is equal, but when you look at platforms like Instagram, they solve a different problem. So if I'm Louis Vuitton and I'm selling handbags, when someone types in handbags, I want to make sure celebrities and everyone is sporting Louis Vuitton handbags, talk about how amazing it is and exclusive it is and rare some of their handbags are, because that'll make more people want them and that will affect the whole buyer journey and cause them to generate more revenue over time.
Let me hit you with a mad stat. You are probably not subscribed. Seriously, 58% of the people who listen to this podcast every single week do not hit that subscribe button. That is more than half of you. So let's fix this right now. The goal here is super simple. We grow the podcast, we bring in bigger guests, and we give you even more no bullshit, actionable insights to level up your business and to level up your life. Now in business, you set smart goals. That's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Well, here's one for you. Let's get that 58% down to well below 50% in the next 3 months. So please do me a quick favor. If this podcast has ever given you one good idea, one piece of advice that's helped you or helped your business, then hit that subscribe button. It takes a second, it costs nothing, and it means that I can keep bringing you even bigger and better guests, giving you even bigger and better insights. Go on, do it now. I'll wait. Done? Perfect. Great choice. Let's grow this together.
I mean, obviously, if you've got unlimited budgets, pulling all of this stuff together, makes complete sense. If you're a smaller business, if you're starting earlier in the journey, how do you pick your first platform, and then how do you decide how to layer upon that?
Yeah, so the way we pick the first platform and the way we layer upon that is we look at it as spaghetti. So when you are cooking spaghetti, I've never done this, but the rumor is that you throw against the wall and if it sticks, it's cooked. Think of your marketing like spaghetti. You're throwing it against the wall being multiple platforms, and the platforms that it's the most sticky with, those are the ones that tend to work the best without much work. Double down on those first. Then eventually pick the other ones where it's semi-sticked, and then the ones that you would pick last were the ones that you threw it against and it just fell right off and it didn't stick at all. And it doesn't mean you can't make those platforms work, it just requires more work.
But what you're saying though is you do actually have to try them all from the outset. So you're not just going, okay, look, I'm going to concentrate my budget on Google Ads. What you're saying is you're going to put a small budget on Google Ads, Meta Ads, TikTok, boom, 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 and then pick one, draw back the other budgets, and go all in on the one that works.
That's correct. When you're also looking at it, you want to make sure that you look to see what other people within your space are doing from a platform perspective. It'll give you a rough sense of which ones kind of work in your space and which ones are less likely to work.
And where does traditional SEO sit in all of this? Because I mean, I guess from I kind of sit on both sides of the table in that, listen, I'm far from an SEO expert, but, I understand enough about it to have the conversations. But, I'm also a business owner at heart as opposed to an SEO agency. And I've spent many years being bullshitted by SEO agencies, and it gets a very bad name because I guess it's very good to be able to bullshit people with, because you go, look, nothing, you need to sign up for at least 6 months or 9 months, and nothing's going to happen until month 12, and as small business owners, this is what we've kind of been brainwashed into believing, which, whatever the validity is or isn't in that, it means it's very difficult for small business owners to commit to it properly as a channel from early on. But I mean, also now with the advent of AI and no click no click searches and stuff, the whole landscape of SEO is changing anyway. But I mean, does it where does it still fit in the overall mix? Because all of the other things you've been talking about a moment ago are all quite paid and tangible platforms.
Yeah, tracking on SEO is getting harder. So ideally, companies have a data and analytics team where they contract out to agencies that can help them with data and analytics. But tracking is getting harder because with AI, some of these platforms, like with Google and their AI mode, it's going to be harder to see impressions and clicks and conversions from it based on what they announce. Maybe that changes over time, but I'm guessing they'll stick with it. But generally, when you start doing like brand recall studies, you start surveying people where they first heard about the business, we're seeing SEO convert really well, and it drives a lot of revenue. You have to remember, majority of people click on the free organic listings than the paid listings. So the question is how can you end up being in the free organic spot? And of course, if the paid stuff is profitable, you should be there as well. I'm not saying SEO is better or worse than paid ads. It's just more so be everywhere you can where you can end up generating profit and brand awareness for a reasonable cost with your ideal customers. And the hard part about it is in choosing someone to help you with it is either you got to learn it or you got to find an agency, but a lot of agencies suck. So when you find an agency, you got to find one that with relevant industry experience and case studies, so that way they're less likely to fail.
Most business advice, it's motivational fluff. It's empty promises and it's untested ideas by people who have never even tried to apply them. It's bollocks, but you're not going to get that here. And that is why I call it No Bollocks. The No Bollocks newsletter is straight talking, high impact, zero time wasting, tried, tested, and immediately actionable. 2 emails a week, insider strategies, brutally honest insights, and the answers to the questions that you're asking, or you should be asking. And the best part, you're going to learn more in 10 minutes than most people learn in a 3-year MBA. Over 20,000 people a week are already in. So don't be the one that's missing out. Hit the link in the show notes, because you just need one email that could be the one that changes everything.
I'm on your mailing list, which I'm an avid reader of, and avid signer upper of many of your webinars. And I didn't get around to watching it yet, but you did one a couple of days ago about personal brand. And I think it's to do with how you built your personal brand. I mean, obviously, the whole concept of branding, particularly personal branding, is number one of every kind of digital marketer's talking point nowadays. Have we got any actual hard stats yet about how much having brand or having strong brand reduces customer acquisition cost? And I guess my follow-up question to that is, where is brand sitting in the overall mix?
Yeah, it's tough to put a calculation on it because you've also spent money to build up the brand. So what is the cost, and then how do you include that in the formula? I haven't seen any perfect studies on it, but I can tell you for our own business, and we've looked at sizes of companies that are doing, 0 to 10 million in revenue, 10 to 100, 100 to a billion, billion plus. And the bigger the company, the more they acquire customers because of their brand name. And it tends to be a higher conversion rate from a lead or visitor to a sale than, let's say, the smaller organizations. Typically, that's what we see. But when you look at, and we have some data, I can see if I can eventually pull it out and then post it in a chart online. But when I look at our own business, my personal brand roughly ish 10 million bucks a year in revenue. If you know, I haven't checked in a bit, but the last time I checked, it was around 10 ish a year in revenue.
How are you quantifying that? Is that
Direct
on
revenue.
all kind of? Oh, really?
Yeah, of just like direct revenue coming in because of my brand and them signing up. Not the company
And
brand,
and,
it's personal brand.
and my understanding is that a lot of your corporate work is very large scale clients, is it? You know, like big international companies.
We do big international companies. It makes up a large chunk of our revenue. But we have a S&B division. So we do all the way from startups to, global 1,000 corporations.
And when you're dealing with the global 1000s, because obviously, I very much appreciate, personal branding at the SMB and startup level. But when you're dealing with with the global corporations, are the people you're dealing with on the other side, do they still know who Neil Patel is? Are they into the personal brand, or is that more traditional sales director to marketing director?
Some of them know, but most of them don't care. So it doesn't matter if they know or not, they don't care. They want to know who's on the team, what are the results, and what's the ROI.
Right. So personal brand's a lot more important in the smaller transactions.
Correct, yes.
Talk to me about AI, and I guess AI content creation, where Google's view on it is. I mean, you hear so many mixed reports of, you've got to use AI, otherwise you can't keep up. Or if you do use AI, Google doesn't want your content. I mean, is there any hard and fast rules and knowledge on it?
The hard and fast rule is whether it's AI or human created, if it provides tons of value to users, and it really provides tons of value where they're just like, oh my God, this is one of the best things I've seen, it'll do well. We did an experiment with 68 websites. We created 744 articles, half AI, half human. The AI written articles had human intervention. And after 5 months, the AI articles had 5.44x less traffic, organic traffic from Google than the human written content. Does it mean that AI content is terrible? No. It's just you got to leverage a combination of what we call human and AI, HAI, and we think that is the future.
And on the content that was AI but with human intervention that was tracking behind, were you able to quantify what was specifically lacking from it that you could look at that and go, well, look, I know why it's actually falling behind.
It's what Google calls EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. It's hard to talk about experience when it's AI writing the content or showcase their expertise. Um, but it doesn't mean AI content's bad. When we did the experiment, we try not to put too much human intervention where a human would be spending 2 hours, 3 hours rewriting. We wanted to put more of the minimum, so then that way we can maximize the study of the test and really see the difference between human written versus AI written.
And what about the other side of AI then, in regards to adopting your SEO strategies to how people now search for things, whether that's a no click search on Google, or whether it's like I do a lot of my stuff on ChatGPT now that I would have once used on Google. How do we adopt to that world?
That's where we do search everywhere optimization. We got to make sure ChatGPT is recommending your product, your service, your brand. They're looking at things like reviews. How many brand mentions are you getting around the internet? How long have you been in business? How many awards and everything have you received, right? Your company wise. Do you have backlinks? What's the context of the prompt that someone was searching? And how is that related to your product or service? They're looking at a variety of factors, right? Those are just to name a few that we've seen. But when you're looking at ChatGPT or even Google AI mode or AI overviews, people are searching. They're seeing and interacting with brands. They may not purchase right away, but it helps create your name and grow it. And it also keeps you top of mind and it causes conversions later down the road. It's just like Nike grew to being a massive company through things like billboard ads and TV ads and running campaigns and sponsorships. You can't really directly attribute a lot of their marketing to a click and revenue, but it helped the company become this multi-billion-dollar company that we know of today.
I mean, I guess for me, the translation or simplification of what you were just saying, then of the things you need to do to get ChatGPT or whichever AI tool it is, bringing up you as a brand is all the stuff you should be doing anyway.
Yes.
You should be getting backlinks. Whether or not this was in the new world or the old world, you do want the Google reviews, you do want the social signals. You do want all that. So I guess it's doing all the stuff you should have been doing anyway, but doing more of it and in a 360 cohesive way.
Exactly. And when you do all of this, this is how you get business. When we look at most businesses who generate revenue, they do, and I'm talking about large businesses, billion plus, they do SEO, they do pay per click, they do social media marketing. Some of them do influencer marketing, they do email marketing. Some of them leverage text message and push notifications. They do conversion rate optimization, right? They're taking all the channels out there and leveraging it for their business. But if you look at the majority of their sales, it comes from people being familiar with their brand. All these things over the years add up, even like television ads or CTV ads, right? Or advertising on like Netflix. It all gets your brand out there, and then eventually that causes you to make more revenue in the long run, assuming you have a good product and service, and assuming that your offer is competitive, and assuming that when you're running the ads, you're targeting your ideal customer, not just random people.
I mean, the world seems to be overrun with digital marketing agencies and individual digital marketeers nowadays. If somebody was setting up an agency today, is there something that you would particularly advise them to do as a standout tactic to really differentiate themselves in a very red ocean?
Focus on a specific service. So the service could be paid ads or social media, or it could be email marketing or SEO. Pick whatever the service is and focus on a specific vertical. So the vertical could be D2C commerce or B2B SaaS, or it could just be like home services, right? You can pick a category. So ideally, you want to pick a vertical and a service and just do that one service for that vertical, and then eventually add in more services and then start doing multiple services for that one vertical, and then eventually start adding other ancillary industries that are very related to the one that you're working on. And that's how you start off today, because it's just too competitive to be broad.
I mean, I guess it's obviously different for you because you have the full range of services that you do offer. But whilst I obviously completely agree with the logic of what you're saying, I also know from an SMB side of things that the SMB business owners tend to like to have a one stop shop for everything. Probably because they don't understand enough as well. It's, oh my God, I don't want Neil doing my Google ads, but Matt doing my SEO or my whatever. I mean, is that still a tough one to combat?
Uh, yes, it is what they're looking for, and yes, it is tough to combat at the beginning when you're starting an agency. But eventually, as you add in the services, there shouldn't be an issue. And if I'm dealing with, let's say, a home services business, and let's hypothetically say I'm starting off and I'm just offering SEO, and I'm like, look, before you get into tons of services and have us do everything, let us do one thing, let us do it well and show you results. And once you see results, then let's talk about expanding, right? The last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money and then be dissatisfied. We don't think we'll dissatisfy you, but let's start off small and then scale from there. That's an easy way to pitch and get people even more comfortable and have it work for you as well.
Where do you think podcasting fits into the overall mix? Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's seems to be more and more podcasts, every week now, and I always say, I say everyone should have a podcast, but I say it for different reasons, not just for marketing purposes, but for networking purposes, for credibility purposes, etc. But how do you see podcasting fitting into the overall marketing mix?
I think it's an important channel. There's roughly a billion blogs, so roughly one blog for every eight-ish people in this world. When you look at podcasts, I think there's like only around like 4.5 million-ish podcasts. A lot of them aren't even active. A lot of the blogs aren't active either. But when you look at podcasts, there's one podcast for every 1,000 something people. It's just not that competitive of a channel. A lot of people listen to podcasts. According to Salesforce, the average household income in the U.S. for a podcast listener is around $75,000. That may have changed by now, but there's a lot of money to be made. You know, you look at a lot of the elections in the United States. A lot of them are being influenced and changed purely due through podcasts these days. It's a massive channel that people can't ignore.
I read a stat, and I assume it was from one of your blogs, to be honest, because I think most of my data it seems to come out of neilpatel.com. But it was something like 80% plus of web pages don't get a single piece of organic traffic.
That's correct. Majority of web pages get little to no traffic. You just have there's too much content on the internet. It's like 4.6-ish billion pieces of content get created each and every single day, whether it's video, audio, images, etc. You know, and the way I see it is uh, creating content is a necessity, but you got to create good content. And what is good content? It's in the eye of the beholder. That's a really vague thing to say. But the way I really perceive content is too much of it's regurgitated. How can you create something that's new and fresh that people are interested in that hasn't been talked about before? If you do that, your content's likely to do well. But most people just focus on regurgitating content. And that's what AI helps with. It just mass produces regurgitated content.
I mean, I guess, again, the short answer is from a content perspective, whether you're making blogs, whether you're making podcasts, whether you're making YouTube videos, if you're gonna do something, do it great, or don't even bother doing it at all, because to spend, if you, yes, you might think taking 10 hours to create a piece of content is an expensive or timely waste of time, but the counter to that is, well, spending 1 hour to create a piece of content that is living on that statistic of traffic, content that's never had traffic, what's the point in doing it in the first place?
That's right. Um, but the bigger problem I really see when you think about content and just marketing in general, everyone focuses on creating, and very few people focus on promoting. We spend more time promoting than creating. Like you look at it, everyone can create content, especially with AI. It makes it easier than ever. But you got to promote it, which is hard.
And that's any kind of content, whether it's a blog, Listen, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and getting to pick your brains as someone who consumes your content anyway. One last question before you go, which as a marketeer, as a businessman, and as an American, weigh in on the Trump versus Elon situation for me, because because and the context for me is, I mean, I think as much as everyone thinks Elon, I'm very I also agree he's an absolute genius. But as much as everyone thinks he's an untouchable gazillionaire, I think he's teetering in very dangerous territory here, where he could go from 200 or 300 billion to a few cents left on the way to jail very quickly if he plays his cards wrong.
I don't think Elon. I think in his head he tries to do what's right and doesn't actually care for money. I don't think anything Elon's doing is going to cause him to go to jail. But he is messing around with the bear, and he's poking the bear, and the bear can bite back. And the bear may not have as much money, but the bear has quite a bit of the way we see it is Elon and Trump just need to figure it out, or the way I see it. And I'm not saying anyone is right or wrong. It's above my pay grade. It's not good for the country for two powerful people to be bickering on the internet.
Listen, thanks a lot for being in there. For people who didn't know who you were before this, where can they find you? How can they reach out? And how do they come and work with you?
My ad agency is NP Digital. I blog at neilpatel.com, and all my social handles are Neil Patel.
Awesome. Well, listen, we'll get all that in the show notes. And thanks a lot for being here, Neil.
No problem. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to No Bollocks with Matt Haycox. Today's conversation was packed with actionable insights, and I'm super grateful that you joined us. Now, our community now boasts 160,000 downloads a month of this podcast, and that is a testament to entrepreneurs just like you who refuse to settle for mediocrity. So don't miss out. Subscribe now and gain exclusive access to the conversations that can transform your business and transform your life. Also, while you're at it, if you could visit www.matt-haycox.com or click the link in the show notes below, and please sign up to the No Bollocks newsletter. That's like the sister newsletter that lives with this podcast. Every week I send 2 emails, and in just 10 minutes you're going to gain more knowledge than most people doing a 3-year MBA. So please subscribe, rate, share this episode with someone who needs a No Bollocks boost. And until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.